this week, the interim coach of the US team. He's done an honest job steering the ship through some difficult waters.
You have a ton of respect for finishing the job. He easily could have walked away. Obviously, he's been the caretaker. Ernie Stewart's named the new general manager this week. But when you talk to Dave Sarachan about his choices for the starting 11 tonight, it was all about giving these players an opportunity to impress, which leads me to the subject of my Continental Tire Analyst Corner. You never know who's watching, Ian, and so many of these 11 players, including that man, Will Trapp, their club future is up in air. And when you have a game like this against a World Cup favorite and you put in a real performance, there are tons of scouts here. You are then in the picture for what your next move is. So many of these American players today could further their club career with a great performance against the French national team.
Between them, France, 460 caps against the 73 of the United States. Now, this man is under some pressure, Didier Deschamps. Not everybody reporting on the French national team is a fan, and that's because so far he hasn't delivered a trophy. Of course, they got to the final of their own European Championships a couple of years ago, but lost to Portugal, surprisingly, on the day. Well, they're whipping up a bit of a storm here. There's some excitement. There's Olivier Giroud. Sebe Jacquet, who's come out, who was the manager of the French team when they won the World Cup 20 years ago. So a lot of people saying this team might be the best one since that. But is there a Zinedine Zidane in this French side who can really take control and be the man of the World Cup? He is forever in French football folklore. That, of course, was the team of not only Zidane, but Deschamps himself, who was the captain and now the coach. Fabien Barthez in goal, Christophe Dugarry, Marcel Desailly, Patrick Vieira, and Emmanuel Petit, among others. The great left back, Lizarazu as well. Wonderful player. We have a Scottish referee today. He's a bit of a fitness fanatic, I'm told. William Collum, who is a religious education teacher in Glasgow when he's not refereeing top football matches. France to kick off here. 10 of the 11 US players out there have under 10 caps. The only one who has plenty of experience really in the lineup here is Bobby Wood, who'll be playing up front alongside Julian Green, but Green will also have the job of helping out the midfield. This is Varane, who's having his first prep game for France here, because of course he was involved with Real Madrid winning the Champions League a couple of weeks ago. McKennie tried to get the challenge, and then Anthony Robinson picked the ball up. Trapp playing it forward. No fear is what Dave Sarachan has said to his young players. They're bound to be a little bit nervous here because they've played Bolivia, they beat them, they lost in the last minute to Ireland. This is about 3 levels up, isn't it?
Well, what was the analogy Dave Sarachan used? If Bolivia's a 35-mile-an-hour car, this is a 100-mile-an-hour car, and he's 100% spot on. I just look at this, when you're in this kind of environment, you're young, get your first couple touches under you, keep it simple, get into the game, and then forget about who you're playing and get into it.
I think the US have got to that stage, haven't they now? Because this is a time where it really hurts when a World Cup is about to start and you're not in it. I think probably nobody under the age of 40 can remember a time when the US were not in the World Cup finals. But it does give a chance to look at new players, rethink it all, reorganize, and there will be an appointment at some point in the next few months of a new permanent head coach. Dave Sarachan's made it clear he would like to be considered for that. This is Umtiti for France, the Barcelona defender has just signed a new 5-year contract this week. Here's Antoine Griezmann, who scored 2 goals here last month in the final of the Europa League for his club Atletico Madrid. Interesting to see how France go about it as Mendy tries to make some progress down that side. Just back in the nick of time from a cruciate injury, Benjamin Mendy.
Well, and that's going to be the difficult test for Shaq Moore, because Griezmann will come inside, Mbappe will come inside, so both fullbacks will push high, Mendy being one of those. So Shaq Moore's got to be very in tune with either Tyler Adams, Will Trapp, limiting that space through the middle. The difficult part for the United States, Ian, is their defensive posture. If they're going to play 5 in the back, and France is really only going to have Olivier Giroud, last thing you want to do is play 3 or 4 against 1 and leave the numbers for the French national team in the midfield.
They've had a plan, they've worked on it all week. The US trying to congest those areas centrally where they can cause a lot of damage. Make sure they're not outnumbered in there. Hacked away. Might be a lot of defending to do back there today.
Well, and Shaq Moore gets caught overcommitting here. It's a simple touch from Mendy coming inside, but good spot there from Tyler Adams to cover.
Miazga with the final clearance for the corner. Griezmann takes. It's not really dealt with by the US defence. Nobody won that header. It's come out to Paul Pogba. He'll be wanting to put on a bit of a show here today. He's been getting a few jeers from the French fans, and of course he's coming off a difficult season with Manchester United. Mbappe, now Sidibe to cut it back. The right back who was ever present in the qualifying. US give it away. Pogba! Oh, it bounced off the post. He nearly scored there. Stefan. His first touch could have been to pick the ball out the back of the net.
Oh, and it's a sloppy touch from Julian Green. Weston McKennie not on the same page. Bad giveaway about 25 yards out.
It's going to take a lot of tactical discipline from these youngsters here. There's Tyler Adams, of whom there are big hopes. He's only 19, the New York Red Bulls player. Says his idol is N'Golo Kanté. Well, he's playing against him today. Again, the US give the ball away a little bit cheaply. Here's Umtiti again. Just being held back for a moment by Green. Well played by Tim Parker. But again, the US surrendering possession too cheaply. It's Anthony Robinson, who's been featuring quite a lot for Bolton Wanderers in the Championship. In England, they had a remarkable last-day escape. Rather nervous touch that from Zach Steffen, the young and informed Columbus Crew goalkeeper. So winning only his 3rd cap. Compared to some of those in front of him, he's almost a veteran. The USA, by the way, have never scored in 3 matches in history against France. Mendy with the cross. Nobody in a blue shirt had made a run into that area. France start their World Cup campaign in Kazan a week today against Australia. I think once the draw was made, they had a look at it and they thought the USA might be a useful warm-up for that sort of game. I'm guessing that was the logic in coming up with this fixture from their point of view.
And we go back to that sloppy giveaway from Julian Green and Weston McKennie. And Ian, you talk about tactically being disciplined. I also think you've got to show the ability to keep possession. And what we've seen in the first couple of minutes here is that the United States, when they have possession, they've given away too cheaply. You can't defend against this squad for 90 minutes and give that man opportunities unattested 25 yards out. The United States need a little bit more quality in possession here.
And again, it was given away. Now then, Griezmann, he's not the kind of player to offer any kind of opportunity to. Parker there has just overrun the ball. Sidibe is the supremely gifted Kylian Mbappe wearing the number 10 shirt. Oh, that's a clever ball towards Giroud from Pogba. He looks up wanting the referee to give a penalty. He's not getting it.
At some point, you've got to put pressure on Paul Pogba. No pressure whatsoever. Little clip ball over the top. Cameron Carter-Vickers does a good job of getting between that ball and Zach Steffen. Giroud has a good argument. I think it would have been a soft penalty, but how about that ball from Pogba in behind?
Off the outside of the foot as well.
I think the referee's in a perfect spot. You can see his sideline. That's a good no call.
By the way, the VAR, video assistant referee, is not in operation here today. I thought it probably would be because it is going to be used at the World Cup, and you'd think that France would want to do that. Slip through towards Mbappe here. Parker doing the covering. He's an old school tough defender, is Tim Parker. But what a day to make your first start in the national team shirt. Well, the free kick is given against Shaq Moore. Another one making his first start for the team today. Plays his football, or has been, for Levante in La Liga in Spain. Well, he's holding his arm, but that's not a penalty, is it? Once again, Griezmann to take it. Giroud won the header and would have expected to score. You could tell from his reaction he was disappointed not to do so.
Well, and Tim Parker gets caught coming too close to that near post, so it's just a little back post run from Giroud. Wide open header. But that's the one thing early on here. Shaq Moore's got to be extremely careful giving away set pieces that easily.
Now by Robinson on Sidibe. Conte. Across to Samuel Mtete. What's the buyout clause in that new deal from Mtete at Barcelona?
What was it, like 500 million euros?
500 million. I mean, I know inflation's rampant in the game, but you couldn't see anybody paying that.
Look at the partnership of Varane and Umtiti. Real Madrid starting center back in Barcelona. That's why you hear that argument that they're the best partnership going to Russia in the World Cup.
Certainly among them, aren't they?
I think Germany may have something to say about that, but
Brazil's isn't bad either. That'll be Thiago Silva and Miranda, I think. Adams did some good work there.
Good ball.
Yeah, it was, and Bobby Wood hadn't continued with his run towards the near post. Otherwise, he might have been in business. Dave Sarakan like that.
Well, and that's going to be the most difficult task for Bobby Wood tonight, is that you're going to defend for majority of the game, but then when the ball goes wide, you've got to be aware. It's exactly what Olivier Giroud wants to do. You and I talked about in the open, and he's always been in the crosshairs, heavily criticized, but when we look at his time under Didier Deschamps, 22 of his 30 goals have come under this system right here that sets up perfectly to his strengths.
Yazga across to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Then Adams. Just one or two signs here of the US starting to settle a little bit better. Push the ball around, not give it away, which is what they did really basically for the first 5-10 minutes or so. That's a poor one, though, that time from Parker. It's a big, steep learning curve for these players here. You hope that the experience doesn't end up ripping up their confidence at too early a stage, don't you? Pogba. Some good work there by Weston McKennie, who picks the ball up again here, and there's a nice spin from him as well. Into space is the young man who's been pretty regular in the Schalke team, which finished second in Germany this year. Conte under a bit of pressure, but illegally so.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that, though. If you're Tyler Adams and Weston McKennie, at times you've got to get in front of Will Trapp and push forward. You can't just sit in, and I like that from McKennie and Adams early on here.
Just looking at Benjamin Mendy on the left side for France. He's almost playing like an out-and-out left winger, isn't he? They're pushed so high, the French fullbacks.
Well, the problem with that, though, is because Shaq Moore and Anthony Robinson are so deep. You know, so if you're going to set up in this type of formation and both of your wingbacks are going to sit so deep as if it's 5 in the back, you're just inviting both fullbacks of the opposition to push forward. And that's why I think the communication between Miazga, Carter Vickers and Miazga and Parker, at times you may want to push them a little wider so then those wingbacks can push higher up the field.
Mbappe and Griezmann trying to work something between them. That's going to be one of the things for that American defense, trying to track the clever movement of players like that, because everything's going to be happening at several miles an hour quicker, as Taylor's been explaining, than they've been used to. The last USA team to play against France was back in 2011 in the early days of Jurgen Klinsmann. France won 1-0 with a Loic Remy goal in that team. Dempsey, Altidore, Beckerman, Carlos Bocanegra, Steve Cherundolo at right back. Superb right back he was. Distant memory now, though. Here's Adams. Now Parker. Did well as a substitute in Ireland last week, which is why I think he's got this start here. Plus they needed an extra centre-back to play this system.
It's a sloppy first touch from McKennie, because that's exactly what you want from your centre-back and Matt Miazga, to play a ball that bypasses 2 lines into that hole. Sloppy first touch from Weston McKennie.
It was way too heavy. He's a pretty confident character by all accounts, though, McKennie. He's just going to love this experience. It's a bit like going from the shallow end of your local swimming pool out into the very deep ocean. Griezmann. Again, who plays on the right of the 3-man midfield. They are playing a 4-3-3, but that can morph into other systems, really, depending on who's got the ball and where.
There's a better position, though, from Shaq Moore. You talked about Mendy having all the freedom in the world. Well, now Shaq Moore makes that 5-7 run to close down that space. Now Mendy can't get that momentum going forward. Learning on the fly.
Moore, by the way, today chosen for this assignment ahead of DeAndre Yedlin, who's the only player in the entire squad with over 50 caps.
Yeah, but do you and I need to see DeAndre Yedlin?
Well, that's the thinking, isn't it? That's the thinking, that let's have a look at somebody else. We know about Yedlin. Might see him later, mine. France with quite an array of talent just sitting on the bench. There will be a lot of substitutions later on. Here's Blaise Matuidi towards Giroud again. They always have that option with him in the team of getting in crosses. He is going to get so many chances, I think, at the World Cup, Giroud.
Well, because all the eyes are going to be on the dynamic players in wide areas, Griezmann, Mbappe, Dembele, they have a wealth of riches in those wide areas, and it opens up a lot of 1v1 opportunities for Giroud getting on the end of crosses.
Is Moore.
That's a good turn here from Bobby Wood.
It really was, wasn't it? Good, strong play. Wood, who has scored in both of his last 2 games, including last week against Ireland. In fact, he's been more prolific for the US than he's been for his club Hamburg this last season. Flag was up, offside. There's Mbappe. Lovely little cameo from him. Wherever you look in this French team, they've got a top-class player. They've got pace to burn, and they've got goals all over the place as well, with Griezmann and Giroud, Mbappe.
You could make an argument the 11 of the players that did not go and make the final roster could make round of 16, if not the quarterfinals.
And one of those players was Adrien Rabiot of Paris Saint-Germain, who was asked to be on standby and said, no, I'm not doing that. That caused a bit of a rumpus. He might not get another call for some time, I'd say. Might take the view you can have every summer off. Here's Mendy inside to N'Golo Kanté. Griezmann round the corner, picks it up again. Griezmann with a license to not only score but create, drop deep, do his damage anywhere he chooses. Here he is again. Lovely little ball to Giroud, got the last ball wrong. Played out by Carter Vickers. Is Will Trapp captaining the side for the 4th time already in what is only his 6th cap. Clearly a young man with leadership qualities. Well, no carnage yet for the US. We were quite fearful, weren't we, talking about this game beforehand. Adams. Green just joining in. He's been playing his football in the German 2nd division for Greuther Fürth. They only just about avoided a relegation. He scored the vital goal that helped keep them up. Mbappe and Griezmann. Lovely interchange between those two. Mendy making space. Mbappe goes the other way, and Parker is able to cut it out. There's Mbappe again. Griezmann! Across the face of goal. It is a corner kick. He took a deflection on his way through.
He's just so clever, isn't he? Every spot that Griezmann, that space he picks up, he's always off the back shoulder. He's coming in front. He's in behind. You're never in touch with him as a central defender. And he's always running off your shoulder. That puts you in such a precarious position. But Tim Parker's done a good job in the first 20 minutes of reading that run in behind.
Yeah. I've been working all week since they arrived on a battle plan for this game. To develop your point, Taylor, I love watching Antoine Griezmann. I don't think there's any other player quite like him in style around in the game. I think he will illuminate the World Cup. He was top scorer at Euro 2016. That's his corner going in that time. Again, it's well defended by Parker.
Well, and that's part of the strength that Didier Deschamps has built with those 3 in the midfield of Kanté, Matuidi, Tolisso, Pogba, whoever's in the 3. They cover the ground to allow Griezmann to have that freedom tactically. But you've got to be a real smart, tactical player to find those seams. Griezmann's that player. Griezmann
with the cushion header down. Pogba flicked it on, hoping there was somebody just behind him. Happily for the US, there wasn't. course, nobody will want to get injured, will they, for France? Not at this late stage. There's a bit of that mixed into the pot here, isn't there?
It's a fine line, though, because when you play and think about not getting injured, oftentimes you get injured. So that's difficult, especially in this first half. You expect the 45 France to get after it, put some pressure on the United States. But Ian, anytime you talk to a player a week away from the World Cup, that's the first thing they bring up. You can see it in their faces.
Here is Pogba. I think he wants to silence the critics, doesn't he, Paul Pogba?
Is he unfairly criticized in your mind?
Well, there's bound to be a big debate about him because of the transfer fee when he arrived. People expect so much of him. But I don't think he's been great for Manchester United this past season.
Me neither. But you could have a real good argument he's not being put in a spot to succeed either.
That's him again. Well played by Shaq Moore. Made a pretty good start over on that side. Traps ball to Robinson, who's got pace to burn. Young left wing back. Remains to be seen how many of these youngsters will be a big part of the USA's future. How many of the old guard ever find their way back? Will Clint Dempsey be stuck on 57 goals, level with Landon Donovan, all-time record? Matuidi now plays for Juventus after his 6 years at Paris Saint-Germain. Still winning titles. Mendy, it's an important workout for him. They've been managing his return from his cruciate ligament injury bit by bit at Manchester City and once he's linked up with the French squad. And they reckon he's ready to start this one. Griezmann curls another ball his way. Manchester City winning the title without him, basically. He's going to make them even better next season. The Marseillaise breaking out among the French fans. I remember being on a metro train in Paris the night they won the World Cup. It was packed and the entire carriage was belting it out all the way back into the Champs-Élysées, where the party, of course, continued. It's the only time France have ever won the World Cup. Mbappe's little layoff. Oh! Corner kick deflected on the way through that effort from Kylian Mbappe.
And it's just overloading Will Trapp right now because Mbappe and Griezmann are coming in playing on both shoulders of Will Trapp. So now he can't make one decision or the other to track Mbappe. It's one touch by him. Griezmann goes the other way. That's just how dynamic France is going forward. So much of it is off this man right here, Antoine Griezmann.
They haven't got a goal yet. Haven't broken through yet, which is a testament really to how concentrated these USA youngsters have been so far. Working very, very hard.
And at some point, Dave Saracen and excuse me, need to get something from Bobby Wood and Julian Green.
Well, it's a devil of a job, isn't it, to get out of their own half at the moment, because France have probably got, well, it seems like about 75% possession. I haven't got the exact figure in front of me. Oh, Mendy's got him behind here. Mbappe's gone to the near post! Got there first, got his studs to it, but it doesn't go in.
And it's too slow of a reaction here from Tim Parker, and the miscommunication between Shaq Moore allows a simple run from Mendy in behind.
Almost a lethal counter-attack from the French. Too long for everyone from Antoine Griezmann this time. Coming up next, right after us, it's Major League Soccer on ESPN again as the Columbus Crew host Bradley Wright Phillips and the New York Red Bulls. Coverage beginning right after the conclusion of our match here on ESPN and the ESPN app, by the way, as well. And there's the Columbus Crew goalkeeper, Zach Steffen, being released, of course, for international duty. He's kept 5 clean sheets in a row for his club. Goalkeeper place very much up for grabs, isn't it?
Well, and I'm on the record, and I'll stay on the record. I think it's Zach Steffen's position to lose. When you listen to Greg Berhalter talk about it, even Dave Sarakin, current goalkeeper coach Matt Reese, they all talk about his ability to make that special save, but he's got good feet and the ability to play out. A big part of that is Greg Berhalter will trap his teammate the way they play, but Zach Steffen is one to watch for years to come.
Wonder how well he slept last night, thinking about Griezmann and company. Mind you, if you don't like a challenge like this, you probably shouldn't be a professional footballer.
Well, you shouldn't be a goalkeeper.
No, exactly. I think he was kind of thinking it's going to be a busy night. Griezmann. So far, that US defence, though, has kept him reasonably well covered up, to be fair. Mendy, seems everything's going through him on that side, on his weaker right foot, and it rather showed. He's a big star on social media, Benjamin Mendy. I don't think I know a player who got as much publicity while he was out injured as Mendy, who made friends with every Manchester City fan, it seemed. Green. Here's Will Trapp again. Has he got a new deal with his club?
Yep.
Trapp, yep. Which is always good news, isn't it? Keeps the money coming in.
Well, and he's also one of the players that many of the U.S. national team fans on social media will say, why are we seeing Will Trapp today? And my argument is, well, when have we seen Will Trapp against this kind of competition? This is really the first real test in the U.S. national team jersey that we've seen Will Trapp. And quite honestly, he's been the only player in the midfield that's the back three can play out of trouble. And that's exactly the way Greg Berhalter and Columbus Crew have taught him. He's done very well tonight in playing out of pressure, and right on cue gives it away.
Always the way it goes. Here's Pogba. Sidibe. Cut into the path of Conte, who doesn't usually get that far up the pitch. Fancied himself maybe for a goal there. He's only got one so far for his country.
And the United States have had a couple spells here where they've had a little bit of possession, but very little going through Bobby Wood or Julian Green. And so then when the ball turns over, France is in transition going the other way. At some point here, they've got to get a run out of the midfield, or they've got to have the ability to play into the feet of Julian Green.
There's Cameron Carter-Vickers with Sheffield United and Ipswich Town. Did okay, over 3,000 minutes of action. And he's just got a new deal from Tottenham Hotspur as well. Not that I think he's going to make their first team. It'll probably be another loan next year. Is Matt Miazga. By the way, at half-time today, we'll have an interview with the new general manager of US Soccer. Taylor Twellman has been talking to Ernie Stewart, and it'll be interesting to hear his views. Because he's a man that the fans will definitely identify with, playing in 3 World Cups. And there needs to be a vision for the future. McKennie's ball forward.
Yeah, but I'm okay with that. And what are we, 32 minutes in, and that's the first time we've seen one of the three in the midfield look for that ball over the top. Now, obviously, Bobby Wood's got to open up that space, but you have to have the ability to take some chances. You can't play everything in the middle. I like this look here, and that's close.
I don't think it's offside. Close. I think it's level.
But at some point, either McKennie or Trapp got to push a little higher up the field and allow Julian Green to support Bobby Wood more.
The USA have only ever won once in France. That was 94 years ago against Estonia at the Olympic Games. Quickly played in towards Mbappe here. How quick is he, by the way? Almost Olympian speed. Matuidi, Pogba. Good effort from him. Wants a goal today, wants to cement his place. He knows about all the talk of Corentin Tolisso of Bayern Munich.
Well, Julian Green having to track back here, but a good cut from Paul Pogba. But it was the play earlier in this sequence where Tim Parker makes this tackle here. Now he goes to shake Mbappe's hand. He wants nothing of it.
That's inexperience, that, isn't it?
100%.
Concentrated all times, get back in position. I think these youngsters, they'll learn more today probably than in the rest of their careers so far put together. In a game situation anyway. Obviously in training they're learning plenty,
but in that sense, those are just little things. 34 minutes in, I'd say Tim Parker's had a good showing.
Yep,
he's had some good timely tackles. He's read some plays, but that little thing right there. Listen, at the international stage, quite honestly, at the professional stage, there's no more lemonades, there's no more lemons, there's nothing afterwards. Not everybody gets a trophy, and Mbappe reminding Tim Parker about that. I'll give you a lemonade after this game, though. Oh, you deserve one.
Too much sugar. Sorry.
I'll tell you.
It's got to go to water.
I haven't seen you in a while. You look good. What is it? It's that red tie.
I'll give you the $20 note later for the PR operation.
That'll be the first time in 8 years you ever gave me $20.
Lemonade.
Lemonade.
They all have these sports drinks, don't they, these days? Sports scientists have a huge role to play, and of course they will at the World Cup as well, when another of the problems all the camps face is beating the boredom between the games. It's undone one or two squads down the years. It's poor ball really from Miazga. I mean, he just wanted a bit more movement from people ahead of him there. Show me something, he's saying. And that's a fair point as well. He's done well with Vitesse Arnhem in Holland. In fact, he scored a vital goal, helping them to get into the Europa League next season. He's still a Chelsea player officially, but he's playing loads of games, and that's important.
It is, but I would say that in order for his progression to continue, I'd like to see him in Bundesliga for the following year. I'd like to see him maybe move on. And listen, some people will shake their heads. He'll be playing in Europa League if he stays with Vitesse, but I'd like to see him move on. Good ball.
Robinson's ball in there towards Wood, who'd got away from MTT there. It was good football there. It was all set up by Weston McKennie in midfield. And that really is the best the USA have produced so far.
Well, and Robinson's got that quality. He's got that quality to get forward and look for that final ball. My argument is, what was his option? It was only Bobby Wood and Tyler Adams making a 65-yard run as that second runner.
With just a bit more experience and composure, they'll start to get that sort of thing right and get that final ball spot on, because there was a possibility there. Griezmann again picking it up in the space. Again, the USA working hard. Whether they can sustain this for 90 minutes when they have so little time with the ball in the game. Wood was dispossessed by Giroud. Here's Pogba. Got an interesting ball back, but Trapp had read it. Doing his job well in that little space in front of the defence. And here's the skipper again. Good ball too towards Bobby Wood, who couldn't make it stick. Flag was up anyway. Mbappe. Tweedy up towards Griezmann, who could be moving to Barcelona this summer, by the way. Once again, Mbappe going through his party tricks, lays it back. USA defense all over the place for a moment, but they got the job done. And Miazga gives a little thumbs up back to Zach Steffen at the end of it all.
They're little things, but how often do you see Tyler Adams popping up in those little areas to support his back three? Those three center backs have had Tyler Adams next to him the entire first half.
Just stepping it up a gear, you sense France here now. They want a breakthrough. Let's get a goal. That's what they're thinking. They certainly want a goal-scoring send-off. They haven't scored less than 2 goals in a match in their last 7 games. But included in that, by the way, was a shock home defeat against Colombia. Game in which they led 2-0 and lost 3-2 in March. Mendy, lovely ball. Griezmann's got space! Oh, and he didn't make it tell for once. I'll tell you what, I was expecting the net to bulge there because it was him.
Well, and immediately after Griezmann's run and then attempt on goal, you're seeing the conversation between Parker Trapp and Miazga. And you've always got to be aware of that space in behind. Because Tim Parker gets so caught up with that run in behind with Giroud, Griezmann finds that space at top of the 18. Not often, with that time and space, you see him miss the net. United States lucky.
Doesn't usually let you off. Varane won the header. Benjamin Mendy. Kylian Mbappe. Accelerating into space. Griezmann. Just putting the jets on a little bit now here, France. I think it's a tribute to this young USA side that they feel they need to do that as well. Robinson with the throw. Free kick going the way of France. And Titi, crowd of around 58,000 in this Groupama Arena, which is the home of the famous Olympique Lyon. Not so long ago, we're winning the French title every year. Not these days, of course, with Paris Saint-Germain's money. And, of course, Monaco won it last season. Conte still drives his Mini. No ego. Doesn't matter how big a star he is.
8 years ago, he was in the 9th tier of French football.
Yeah, it's a great story.
What?
Hope for everyone, isn't there? Played again. Cameron Carter-Vickers. Almost a party atmosphere among the French supporters here. Feel like they can watch their team really with the pressure comparatively off. It certainly won't be the case next week when it all happens for real in Russia. Is Griezmann, and there'll be people here, won't there, from the Australian camp as well, doing a scouting report. Australia playing themselves, by the way, today against Hungary. Mexico are playing Denmark later too. Keep thinking, he says, Dave Sarakan.
Well, and there's that fine line that he and his staff are going to talk about at halftime of whether or not the 3 center backs led by Matt Miazga can push that line up a little bit higher. But if you do that, then you leave the space in behind, and that's a difficult task, I think, throughout the entire 90 minutes for this back line, especially for a young defender in Matt Miazga.
And the other thing he'll have to think about is how many substitutes he dare make, really, because he's got these players playing in this system. Start changing it all around, it might be hard to keep the same amount of tactical discipline. To Miazga again is the main man in that defence in the centre. Trapp plays it to one side to Tyler Adams. And for once on that right hand side they are able to get the wing back forward in Shaq Moore. It would be a sensation if the USA scored, wouldn't it? It would be a smash and grab. Did go ahead last week in Dublin. Will Trapp's going to take it. It was a long way and bounces around dangerously. Miazga had got into a good position to win the header. He didn't quite manage to get the header on goal away. Pogba's release ball is in towards Griezmann, who got there first. And switched off again. He is so clever with his movement. He comes from just about 40 miles away from here, a place called Mâcon, does Antoine Griezmann. Never yet played for a French club. Kept on telling him he was too small. He ended up at Real Sociedad in Spain. Carter Vickers. More inside. Here's Bobby Wood. And from Honolulu. Moore again doing some good work. And there's Green scoring! Can you believe that? Julian Green and the USA go ahead with the first ever goal that they've scored in history against France. Now that is a sensation.
And completely against the run of play, but when you weather the storm and you just bend but don't break defensively, it allows you for that break, a sloppy touch with that ball in from Shaq Moore. But we've called Julian Green's name how many times? 2 in this entire first half. Great turn here from Bobby Wood, but Shaq Moore continues with the play. This ball's whipped in. Sidibe with a sloppy first touch, and a ton of credit for Julian Green to hit this first time. If he takes an extra touch here, that ball's not in the back of the net. And one's going to question Hugo Lloris of that near post coming into this World Cup in bad form. But tip your cap. Well done, Julian Green.
How about that? Astonishing. Well, we knew 4 years ago at the World Cup he does have a goal in him. Scored against Belgium as a substitute for Jurgen Klinsmann. Difficult times since establishing himself. What a goal. He's hit that so